What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. Today, we're going to be reviewing Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Or maybe the Final Reckoning. We'll see what happens with that. But we're here to talk about it today. There's been a lot of mixed opinions about this movie, and I'm very interested to get into it. So, Mike, what are your initial thoughts for Mission Impossible Final Reckoning?
Final Reckoning.
Final.
There's no way this is the Final Reckoning. They did not shoot this like they were saying we're not going to do any more of these movies. I thought it was okay. I don't hate the movie. It's still better than Mission Impossible 2 in my opinion. I know that's not a high bar, but it's better. But I would argue that this may be just above Mission Impossible 2 on the list of movies. It felt very disjointed. It felt like it didn't really know what it wanted to be. I think that it is directly related to the fact that Final Reckoning was supposed to be Dead Reckoning Part 2. And then when that movie didn't make a lot of money, they distanced themselves from it and then reshot a bunch of stuff. And it's apparent that there are things that are missing in this movie that are supposed to tie in a lot more to the previous film and are not there. And so there's a lot of weird cohesion issues. There's a lot of dangling plot threads. My biggest complaint about this film, honestly, the thing that bothered me more than anything else is how much exposition and how many flashbacks are in this film. Because boy, oh boy, every time they reference anything from the previous films, including the one that we just had, they immediately throw flashbacks. They're like, hey, remember that time I wrote you a note? And then and they go back and there's a flashback to a guy writing on a piece of paper, and he's like, and you're like, oh, and stuff even the knife. There's a scene with the knife that makes an appearance from Mission Impossible 1, and they showed two separate flashbacks of this knife and emphasize that this knife is from Mission Impossible 1. You're like, yeah, I got it the first time. Thank you.
And you're hoping that he's going to do something cool with it later. It's going to be the thing that saves him in the end. No. It's just hey, remember that?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of member berries. That's some of the negative. Some of the other negatives is it is very obvious that they really wanted to push a certain agenda here with certain identities, and a lot of hey, did you see that this character here is this person, or you see the strong female character over here, and all this stuff?
Black female president, bro.
Yeah. Well, and here it's funny because of all the characters, that's the one that's the most set up.
Yes.
Because Angela Bassett has been in multiple movies. You knew she was moving up the ranks of politics and utilizing the IMF. But then the rest of the film, it's just random characters that I don't care about are hey, I'm here. Look at me. And then some of it is who is it? There's a guy who's the head of this submarine. And he's I know the actor, I think he's from Severance, is the big thing. I know him. He literally says, hey, mister, 7 times in this film. And you're like, why do you keep saying that? Stop. And I get that he's a popular actor, but I would have loved to have seen, I don't know, a callback to another character in this if this is the final one. Negatives aside, that's my thing. There are some really cool set pieces in here. There are some really great action sequences. They're insane, they're big, they're bombastic, exactly what you would expect. And it just proves that Tom Cruise is a madman who does not care about his own safety and desperately wants you to enjoy these movies. And I got to give him credit for that. So
yeah,
that's my thought
absolutely.
on it,
Absolutely. Yeah. Bro, this Gabriel guy that they have as the villain.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Is the worst villain I've ever seen. He's so bad.
Yeah.
Holy
I forgot
crap.
about Gabriel.
They literally have him say catch me if you can, as he's driving away. It's bro.
I forgot that he does that.
Giggling. If he had a mustache, he'd be twirling it.
Yeah, he's catch me if you can, bad guy, air coppers. Yeah.
I'm oh, I hate this guy. Why?
Yeah.
Why is this the villain, bro?
He has one of the, without spoiling exactly what happens to him, he has one of the best villain deaths I've ever seen. Yes. I won't say what happens. I won't say how. But yeah.
I don't know about best. He definitely has one of the funniest.
Bro, my theater
that's a good way to say it.
Died laughing when that happened, dude. It was, it's so good.
It's kind of wild. But yeah, overall, I don't know. It's just, it was what it was. It was fine. I didn't hate it, but yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Chaz?
Yeah, man. I think this one felt like everybody had become really complacent. Like, they've been playing these characters for 29 years. They've made 8 films. It feels like we're just checking in with the characters to see what's going on, and everyone's just like happy to be there. We're not really worried about the plot or any of the details of that. It's like we're spending time with old friends, and like to some people that might be okay, but to me that was a missed opportunity. I think you can do both. So
yeah,
it felt like dragging the aging star, like the aging hero out. It felt like taking Grandpa to Normandy, to be like, hey, remember like when you kicked the Nazis' asses? Like,
yeah,
it was a lot of that. It was a lot of callbacks to like previous films, previous exploits, like his glory days, I guess. And so I thought it was kind of sad as a send-off personally. I'm hoping that this isn't the last one and that they'll maybe give him a more fitting end, but I don't know.
Yeah. I man, and there's so much exposition in this movie. Holy crap.
Yeah.
So much. Bro, like the once the movie actually kind of gets going in the action, it picked up a lot for me. But man, like the first like 20 minutes or so, I'm just like, bro, can we like get to what's actually supposed to be happening here in this film, or what? Like, can we make that happen? Besides that though, like for the most part, I mean, there's a lot of problems that I have with the film. I had a really, really good time with this movie. I loved like there's like a submarine sequence that's in this film, and I thought that was fantastic. I loved every second of that. The tension, just seeing Tom Cruise do his thing. It was great. That was
and that sequence was great back in 1988 when James Cameron did it originally in the movie The Abyss.
Yes. Yeah. I honestly I like the submarine sequence more than like the plane sequence at the end of the film, to be honest.
For sure.
Yeah. This movie
at least that's interesting, and that's like kind of a technical challenge as well. That he's doing the stunts, but they were actually filming underwater, and you can appreciate how difficult that is.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were actually flooding these sets, that was really impressive.
Yeah.
The plane sequence at the end felt kind of underwhelming in a lot of ways for what was supposed to be like the grand finale of this franchise. Like, I don't know, it felt a little weird that they were just like on these like two like random planes, and I don't know, like it was still cool, and it's like, yeah, cool, Tom Cruise is doing his thing and he's climbing all over these planes and all that cool stuff. It felt like that sequence would have been a better sequence, like, I don't know, earlier in the film or something like that, if they and like that, and then like doing the submarine, and then something like crazy and way bigger for the ending.
Dude is like a world-class cyber terrorist, and his plan was to escape in like a World War I biplane. Like, what?
Yeah.
He could buy like he could buy like a Hind helicopter from some third world dictator for like $100,000 and have an actual gunship. He could buy 3 of them and then have a couple escorts and stuff, and like not have to worry about it. He decided he was going to escape alone in a biplane made out of fabric.
Yeah. Exactly.
The other thing is like, there's like a MacGuffin that he's like, hey, I need this MacGuffin and you're going to bring it to me. And then he like leaves on a plane, and then he's like, there's a backup plane too, but this other guy takes the backup plane, and you're like, how are you supposed to get the MacGuffin? Because you just like kind of just left. Like, where were you even going? Like, so there's like this weird thing too.
The hired goon pilot of that other plane literally tries to murder Tom Cruise. He tries to like turn Ethan Hunt into like pink mist with a propeller.
It's just weird. Like, there's just like a weird, like they're like, we just got to get to the plane sequence, and it doesn't matter how little sense it makes to get there. The other thing that's my favorite is that during those plane sequences, Tom Cruise utilizes a super punch, and it sounds exactly like he literally just like launches his body at a guy with a punch, and it's like the most effective punch in the whole world, like at knocking a human being unconscious, and it's so weird.
He punches like twice, and I'm pretty sure that's the only time that he actually makes contact with anyone on screen in the film.
Yeah. There's also there's like a weird sequence where he's like escaping from these bad guys, and it's just all off camera. They just don't show it. They literally show a character reacting to what's happening, but they don't show the action sequence, which is really odd.
He's killing a couple guys in brutal hand-to-hand combat with like a like meat tenderizing mallet, and you just hear the ADR grunts and like the sound effects of the fight, but you don't actually see it, and you just see like the reaction on this actress's face of like abject horror, and just kind of she's grimacing the entire time.
Like straight up like
and
you're like, what?
The worst part is that like Haley Atwell is like clearly like green screen. She's chroma keyed up against a background, like it's just an insert shot, and it's like you know, we don't know if it's because they recut the film, we don't know if it's because Tom Cruise wasn't available or he couldn't do those stunts, you know. Like
I don't know, it's weird because, you know, once again, like, yes, the action set pieces are cool, but there's a lot of hand-to-hand sequences that are really great. I mean, you know, Fallout, we have this like iconic fight sequence with, you know, Henry Cavill and Tom Cruise, and then I don't remember the actors, but the other third guy who like beat them both up and stuff. There's always like these cool action hand-to-hand combat sequences. There's not really any of that in this film. There's like one, but it's kind of out of nowhere, and it feels like they needed there to be tension in this film. Like it's straight up, there's a sequence that just comes out of nowhere. It's totally random, and it's a cool fight sequence, don't get me wrong, but when you think about the implication of, you're like, what was the plan here? It's just like we just needed a sequence here to keep things interesting. So
absolutely.
He spends more time like running and ducking from bullets. We don't see him shoot at anyone. We don't see him, you know, knocking out, you know, goons or enemy soldiers or whatever. It's like, it seems very disjointed. He doesn't really have any contact with them, and it's like he also doesn't have agency. Everything is kind of happening to him.
Yeah, and the ending. There's a lot of problems that I had kind of with the ending and how they kind of ended it. It felt like that they were just trying to kind of wrap it up like really fast in a weird way, and like you'd think that for a franchise that's been going for as long as it has with Mission Impossible, you'd want some sort of ending that would like have the theater like cheering at the end. You know, that's usually kind of what happens when you see the end of a franchise. You see everyone like, you know, clapping, and they're like, oh man, that was a great way to end it. There was none of that, at least in my theater. There was like none of that. Like everyone just kind of like got up and left.
I don't know how you know, like the studio has looked at the dailies of Isai Morales dying, and everyone was like, yeah man, that's what we want Ethan Hunt to go out on. I don't know how that happened. Like
it's odd, man. It feels very, I wouldn't say anticlimactic, but it just, I don't know. When we got out of the film, I was talking about the fact that we, you know, with Fallout has this super crazy intense ending, and like I knew that they were going to win, but like you also kind of wonder for a moment, did they let something bad happen? Did they not make it out of this? Is this, you know? And then you see it happens, and you're like, cool. Or you get in the movie before that one, I think it's Rogue Nation or whatever. I was talking about, it's one of my favorite sequences in that is like Tom Cruise has like the laptop in front of him, and he goes, mission accomplished, and he hits the button and like nothing happens, and he says it again and hits the button, and then it like stops at like 3 seconds, and I'm like, that's so great. He's like, it always stops at 3 seconds or whatever. Yeah. It's like, those are hilarious, and it's great. You know, it's very tongue-in-cheek but acknowledging things. This movie doesn't have any of that charm. It just feels very cobbled together at times. It's weird. It's like there's a ton of heart and work and effort that went into this film. Like everybody is working hard, but it also feels like they're working hard and that hard work isn't really paying off. Like they're rolling a boulder up a hill and it's not getting the traction they're hoping it would get, versus compared to their own work. That's really what it is, because we're comparing it to Tom Cruise hanging off the side of an airliner, or Tom Cruise having this crazy fight sequence, or even a sequence that is a lot of CGI, like when they do the air when they're diving out of the sky, they do the halo jump with him and Henry Cavill. Like that's not real. There's a lot of CGI and stuff in that, but like it's cool to see it, there's also like the typical things, like the stereotypical things, Tom Cruise is going to have a running sequence, but the running sequence feels really out of place and kind of feels unnecessary. I don't know. There's just some weird things here that just feel like they're like, yeah, this has to be the send off, but I'm kind of like, does it really? If it didn't need to be the send off, I probably would have liked it more. But because it's supposed to be the last one, I think there was an expectation that they were going to do more with it, and they didn't.
Yeah, there's one point where he realizes that one of his friends, and we're going to try to keep it spoiler free, one of his friends is in danger, and so rather than driving there, he's running across London on foot, and he gets there too late, and it's like, if he had driven there, if he had, I don't know, literally done anything else, he might have gotten there in time to save his friend.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense that he's running. Like at all.
It's just to look cool.
Yeah. Whereas other times it's like they tell you why. They're like, oh, you have to cut across this way and there's no way a vehicle is going to make it, or the vehicle you were in got destroyed and you don't have time to get, there's other reasons, but they're like, we just need a running sequence in this movie at one point, and he's like, all right, I'll run here. Well, let's just do it,
Yeah.
And then a major event happens, and we don't see any impact from that. We don't see any people panicking. We don't see, any explosions. It's just kind of like he's running. We see a puff of dust, and then later on, we just see him, and he's a little dusty and kind of rumpled and looks defeated.
Yeah.
There's no visual effects or anything. It's like, it's weird.
And like I'm not trying to crap on this movie, because I had more fun at this film than I'm making it sound like I did. But part of me kind of wonders, and I wondered this about Dead Reckoning Part 1 as well. Part of it kind of feels like maybe an AI wrote this script. It feels very impersonal, and it does not feel like the guys that have loved this franchise for decades and have worked their butts off of this franchise and all this stuff sat down and banged out this story that was going to mean something to the audience.
Yeah.
It feels like it's strung together moments to get to the action sequences, to show off how hard Tom Cruise is working at the action or the stunt moments. And that is in stark contrast to, because people are like, oh, I don't go to Mission Impossible for the storylines. Yeah, but the storylines are good. Like they're not like,
well, I mean, they should be.
They should, but they don't have like maybe a ton of depth to them, but it's like bad thing is going to happen. Impossible Mission Force has to stop it from happening. That's cool. In this, it's like bad things kind of happening, and Impossible Mission Force is kind of there, and they kind of tell you that it has to happen and they need them to be involved in this. But there's a lot of like people relying on plot convenience to make a thing happen or hope a thing happens beyond what they're normally dealing with.
Yeah, there's so much of that in this film where like people have to be doing the same thing at the right time, and it's like they literally remark on it. They're like, wow, that's really like improbable and unrealistic, and then they just move past it and don't really address it at all.
Man, that'd be hilariously ironic if they use AI to write the scripts for these, because I mean,
I'm hoping that we're gonna get a sequel to this, and that there's one point where Ethan Hunt enters virtual reality to interact with this AI, and I'm hoping that this entirety of this film was just taking place in that virtual construct, and that none of this actually happened, because that's the only way that you can save this.
I'm gonna be honest. I think that them like using AI as like the main antagonist for these past two films was detrimental to these films in a lot of ways. It really feels like that they didn't really know how to handle it, and it does make the films feel more impersonal because they're like trying to like fight against this like nebulous AI thing and stuff.
It's an existential crisis rather than like facing a specific antagonist that you can defeat.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's off the cusp of with Fallout and stuff. We have my gosh, I can't think of the actor's name now, that was in Fallout, and he was also in Rogue Nation, but like he was leading this like cult. Yeah. And like had this goal in mind, and like the goal and what was happening was bigger than what Ethan was dealing with, but he specifically was like, I have a vendetta against this one person, and so I'm kind of not even really, I don't really care, I'm going after this one guy. And then it comes into play later that guy was kind of playing him and stuff. But yeah, there's like if you're gonna have a villain that is smarter than everybody else in the world and is making all these moves and making all these plays, and it tells you in the beginning of the movie that, and this shouldn't be a surprise because it's an AI, it can see infinite possibilities, but yet it relies on a plan that is so convoluted to work that it doesn't make any sense that this is the one plan. It's not like they outsmart the AI, it is that the AI's plan is so bad that a bunch of bumbling humans stumble into the correct sequence. It's not like, hey, we have to outsmart it, or even the idea, because I thought this is what they were going to go for. I was hoping the idea would be whatever we're about to do is so, because they kind of reference it, but it doesn't make any sense, is so batshit insane and makes so little sense and is such a wire thin possibility of working that the AI didn't do anything to stop it from happening. But they tell you in this movie, this is the one thing, this is the plan the AI is doing, and us trying to stop it is going to be really impossible, and it's not going to expect us to try to do it. But like, it doesn't really do anything to stop it from happening. It just kind of happens. Like multiple people all come to the same conclusion. We have to do this one thing to stop the AI, and the AI won't be able to stop us if we do that. Versus like, let's do this crazy thing that the AI isn't expecting because the chances are like 1%. And you go, oh, a computer.
It doesn't
will never
really have
quantify
contingency plans. Like we don't see backups. We don't see them succeeding at something and then the machine compensating and you know, like trying to thwart them. Like it just, a series of events transpire.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very passive villain, and they tried to make up for that by having Gabriel be like the active antagonist, but he's an awful villain. And so like bad. It would have been funnier or made more sense for him to just be, there'd be no AI, and or the AI isn't unleashed or is contained on a flash drive, and Gabriel is this like madman who wants to unleash this AI on the world, and he's just a mustache twirling villain that just loves being a bad guy. I would have liked it so much more then, but the villain is not Gabriel. It is this AI, and they tell you it is the main antagonist of the film. And Gabriel just kind of exists as this like weird, like enigma that gets in the way of everything.
They try to use him almost as like a personification of the AI. Like they try to use him as like a tangible type of villain that you can kind of react to, but like he was just so bad. Like it didn't make any sense at all. So yeah. But you know, we've been very negative on this film, but I think that at least for me, like I still enjoyed the film, you know, like I still had a lot of fun with the film. There's like the submarine sequence especially is, I think, really well done. But to have this be like the final entry apparently in the Mission Impossible franchise just feels like it kind of goes out with a fizzle in a lot of ways. And that's a little sad. It's a little sad.
It's a little sad. And yes, I know I've been ripping this movie apart is because the bad is really bad. But like I still had fun. Like I had more fun at this film than I did in other films that I've seen this year or other movies, even from last year. It's just we've come to expect more from this franchise than this.
Especially after Fallout, you know,
it's
like
fine if you don't think about it and you turn your brain off.
Yes.
Right. After Fallout, like it was such a high note for the franchise. Like it made these two films feel extra disappointing because of that, I think. So
yeah, because Fallout almost would have been a perfect send off.
There is one returning character, Ralph Saxon's William Donlow, the CIA analyst who was basically running the Black Vault in the original film. He comes back and they have some actually like legitimately heartwarming kind of interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that was probably the strongest part of the film.
Yeah.
Yes. I would agree with that. Yeah, actually.
Yep. I agree with that. Yeah. That was a cool thing. And I wish that they would have done a little bit more of that type of stuff with this film. Bringing back some of the old characters and stuff. That would have been really cool to see. So now the big question is, because this is going to be the determining thing for some people. Do you guys recommend people going to theater to watch this film?
I think this is, oh man, this is gonna sound terrible. I think we should go see this movie in theaters because people worked really hard to make this a good theater going experience. I don't think the action sequences, I don't think the set pieces will have the same weight watching them at home, watching them on streaming. I will say, like, if you have nothing else to go see this weekend, if you want to go on a date with your significant other, or you're just looking for something to do, go see this movie in theaters. If you're like banking on this being a great theater experience and justifying its ticket price, and it's not just about supporting theaters and supporting films, then I will tell you no. I don't think it's worth it. I just don't think it justifies all the time it would take to go out to the theater. But if it's just you and your significant other, you guys are looking for something to watch, like, go watch it. You'll walk out of it and go, cool, man, that was a fun blockbuster experience, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think if you are a casual viewer, you should wait and just check this out on streaming. I think if you are a longtime fan of the series, if like Ben, you think that Ethan Hunt is the greatest American hero and you just love these movies, I think you should probably go see this in theaters. There's enough there and enough tie-ins to the other films that it will be worthwhile to you. But this film does not stand up alone in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It requires the entire 7 other films in order to even function adequately.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's some theater spectacle in this film that's worth checking out in the cinema if you want to. But I agree. I think that if you're just like a casual, then yeah, it's probably better just to wait. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Mike, what would be your final rating for this?
I'm being very generous. I said on X that I would give it a 6 out of 10. I'll probably stick with that. Maybe 5.5, 6 out of 10. That's being very generous. But
yeah. I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10, mostly just from an enjoyment level standpoint. That's probably where I would put it. So, what about you, Chess?
Yeah, on my review on Critic List, I gave it a 40%, so that would put it at 4 out of 10.
Oof. Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. So there you go, guys. There's a range for you guys to figure out what you want to do with that.
Check out my review to see my full thoughts on it. I kind of justify why I gave it that. You know, I didn't want to. I wanted this to be so much more than it was, and you know, I came out of the theater disappointed. But
yeah.
Yep. So if you've seen Final Reckoning, let us know in the comments below what you think about it. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about the film, whether you loved it, whether you hated it. We definitely want to hear from you guys. So with that being said, we'll be back with another movie review soon. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will catch you all later. Bye.
Later.